We've hit the streets of Shenzhen. We're in the home of Huawei and of course Honor to see the new Honor V20. Just released, we want to go and see what it's like. I'm really interested to see the little hole, the hole punch, the non-notch. This is probably the future of smartphone design. So I'm really excited to see just what it looks like. Let's go inside and have a look. All right, so this is the only working V20 that they have in the shop at the moment. It's so new that they haven't got many in here. But just looking at the screen straight off the bat, this notch is absolutely tiny. It's not a notch, it's like a perfectly round hole punch. It just goes through the corner of the screen. I must admit, it looks way better than the really big middle notch of other phones. The screen itself is really bright. Sometimes with Huawei and Honor phones, the screen can be a little bit lacking in color, but this one, I guess they've turned the saturation and the brightness way up. But this notch is absolutely tiny. It just has the camera in here, nothing else. The earphone is just this tiny little thing up at the top of the phone. Other than that, the screen has no notches, just this tiny little camera at the front. The bezels at the top are absolutely non-existent, and the side. The bottom has a slightly thicker bezel. This happens with a lot of the more value smartphones because it costs a lot of money to get the screen to wrap round at the bottom. That's where they put a lot of the electronics for the screen. But I must admit, for a more budget phone, the screen is really unbelievable. What do we have here anyway? On the front, the hole punch for the camera, it says here we've got a 25 megapixel front camera. So it's not going to be the best in low light, but you're going to get really sharp images from it. If I turn it around, I'm looking good. I'm looking good today. Huawei and Honor, they have a lot of beauty modes on their phone. These are mostly for the Chinese market. In China, a lot of people like to use a lot of the beauty modes. If you're buying one of these, you're going to get it. It automatically whitens your skin, so I'm looking incredibly white. You can turn it down and up pretty easily, down from 1 all the way up to 10. The back camera is a 48 megapixel. I think a single camera. It doesn't say here. I can see 2 camera holes here, but it only says there's 1 on this thing. Let's just open up and see what we're saying. Colors look really bright. It looks super sharp. The iPhone, you're getting what, like a 12 megapixel, so it's better in low light, but the camera looks super sharp. It's got 1/2 times zoom, and if I scroll in, you get a 10 times zoom, which is digital, 2 times optical zoom, 10 times digital zoom. The lighting's really good in the shop, but it just looks super sharp, which is what you're going to get from a 48 megapixel camera. Other than the front notch, which I'm really liking, I really like this design. If you have to have a front camera on the front, if you can't put it under the screen, this for me is absolutely the best option. Do away with that huge notch. You just have a tiny little dot here. It looks like it's part of the notification panel. Doesn't get in the way of the screen at all. Other than that, the design's really nice. You have a power button on the right here, volume up and down on the right. The left has nothing except for the SIM card tray. On the back, you still have a fingerprint sensor. Some people absolutely love that. You still have one here, and I really like this color. Don't know if you can pick it out, but there's like a V design on the back. Looks like a V or a wave. It just changes color when it hits the light. Really nice. This one is like a really dark midnight blue. Looks really nice. I really like this color. Fingerprints sticking all over it, but you probably put a shell on anyway. An interesting thing about this notch is that around the camera hole, there's actually like an indentation in the screen. And I think the screen can actually change the color around the notch to give you a notification. So if you can see just around this camera here, it can change maybe blue or green to show that you've got notifications on the screen. A really nice touch. Apart from the notch, the screen is 1080 by 21 something. It's basically 1080p HD screen. It looks really, really clear. It looks really, really clear, really, really sharp. In China, what are you going to get installed on here when you buy it? Obviously, you've got Weibo, Baidu, all of your social apps are already installed here. Toutiao, Douyin, all of the Waimai apps, Taobao, Zhifubao is installed on here. You've got a game center, so you can log into your Huawei game center, get all your games on there. Flicking through the settings, it's really snappy. I know this thing has 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is a lot of RAM for a budget phone. You're looking at 3,500 RMB here in China, £350, there or thereabouts. So this is a budget phone. It's a mid-tier phone, but you've got 8 gigabytes of RAM on here. The battery, 4,000 milliamp hours. What does that mean, really? Well, with Huawei phones, with Honor phones, these batteries last forever. Android phones have big batteries, and the battery life usually is really, really decent. The software itself, it's pretty stock on here. You've got some installed apps, but you know you can just delete them anyway. Other than that, flicking through is really snappy. If I just open Baidu, it's right there. It's really quick. Baidu again, it just snaps in and out. For a mid-tier phone, for 3,500 RMB, it will give you literally everything you need. And the camera, I know the lighting in here is good because it's a shop, but it's just super, super sharp. Camera modes, you've got a Daguanquan, which I think is the equivalent of like blurry background mode. You've got an AR mode here. This is the same as the iPhone with the AR mode. So I can be like a lizard, I can be a dog, I can be a fish, I can be a penguin. Here we have Yejing, which is helps you in low light, I guess. Portrait mode, normal picture mode. Obviously you have video mode. There's loads of modes on here. In China, people love the camera, they love all the AR stuff, and it is absolutely packed with stuff. I even see here a little Douyin logo, which is massive. It's a massively popular app in here in China. You can do something straight on here, send it straight to Douyin. You just have the back button here, go home in the middle, and this is just the app loader where you can just cancel out of all the apps. If you're using Android, it's going to be really familiar to you. There's nothing out of the ordinary. You just have your app screen, go home button. The most amazing thing about this phone is this tiny little punch for the camera. 6.4 inch screen, almost 100% screen, almost no bezels, tiny bezel at the bottom, and this crazy tiny little hole punch in the corner. All right, that's it. If you want to buy this in China, it's 3,500 RMB. Awesome screen, mid-budget phone. Bring in the screen, bring in the 100% zero bezels to the forefront. This is obviously the future, what's going to happen to phone screens. We will see more and more of this design in the future, and I'm interested to see how the flagships are going to carry this as well.